How to make dieting effortless. Guys, you can't. Like, how can you? Think about it like this. You're intentionally putting your body in that state of deficiency with one of the key pillars that it needs to function, survive every day: calories. In layperson's terms, energy. And that is, of course, I'm oversimplifying it, obviously, but in a nutshell, this is the fat loss process. You're intentionally putting your body in that calorie deficit so it goes to those stored body fat, and converts it to fuel. Again, that's a really reductive explanation, but that is basically how it works, honestly, in layperson's terms. And we would be so foolish, so naive, even as somebody that's helped almost 700 men and women now in the last 7 to 8 years full-time doing this, lose over 10,000 pounds combined. I'm still going to be sat here with this as my profession. This is the biggest passion in my life still to this day after 10 years living this lifestyle. I'm still going to be the first to say, you know what, you can't make dieting effortless, guys. Like, how can you? We make it as easy as possible. I'll explain my deal breakers, exactly how I do that in just a second. But effortless? No chance. We'd be so naive to think there's not going to be severe at times psychological and physiological pushback for the negative side effects of the calorie deficit. Now, of course, you're doing something that objectively is really good for your health by losing weight. And so this argument that a calorie deficit is inherently unhealthy, which is a new age absurdity, that's a ridiculous idea, that I don't prescribe to. But to say there's going to be no negative side effects is ludicrous. But that is why I'm so big on the deal breakers. Like, to minimize the hunger, the energy crashes, the risk, feeling like one chocolate bar away from the rebound, the risk of the binging, the risk of the cravings, just try and avoid that white knuckling that so many people do with the aggressive dieting. That's why I'm so big on the 40 to 50 grams plus fiber per day. I'm so big on the small, not extreme calorie deficit. I'm so big on balanced macronutrients. I've found 60% calories coming from carbohydrate, 20% from fat, 20% from protein, there or thereabouts. Not being anal about it, but there or thereabouts. That's been the sweet spot for me in terms of hitting all my nutrients and staying satisfied on a plant-based diet. So I'm so big on using, not exclusively, but principles of volume eating. Not being a volume eater, but using principles like the non-starchy, 2 cups of non-starchy vegetables on my lunches and dinners to bulk up the meal, generous portions without adding that many calories. So I'm so big on all of this stuff. That's why I say, look, if you're going to cheat on your diet, build it into your diet, not stack it on top of your daily calories. Because I want this to feel as easy as it possibly can, whilst also conceding at the same time, look, there are some really harsh parts about living day to day in the calorie deficit. And you get like a good run with this. Like, the more overweight you are, respectfully, the longer, typically, it's a rule of thumb, but the longer typically that you'll get a good run of weight loss without too much psychological and physiological pushback. You really notice this. Rest assured, I can tell you firsthand, you really notice this when you're starting to get to those leaner levels of body fat. Or rather, you've been at the calorie deficit without any little kind of maintenance diet breaks or refeeds for a long period of time. That's a different subject for a different day on how to navigate those. Let me know in the comments if you want me to cover my approach to those things. But yeah, I digress. Calorie deficit ain't easy. Calorie deficit, living there every single day, that little bit of hunger, those no's when you're out to eat, and you've got to say no, no, no. Like, this is why, no wonder the GLPs are so popular right now. No wonder. And that is the future. That is where we're going. My stance hasn't changed. We're not there yet. We're not there yet, especially with Ozempic. My goodness, the side effects look tragic. But look, I'd be foolish to say this is not the future. In 10 years' time, everyone's going to be on 6 different peptides. I'm quite confident of this to manage various things with regards to their health and well-being. That is absolutely the future, and it is exciting and actually quite interesting. And I think I'm going to embrace that even as somebody that's relatively holistic-minded here. But we're not there yet, right? But this is why the GLP-1s are so popular, because the dieting process is inherently really hard physiologically. That is without me even mentioning in this video, like, emotional eating, like really unnecessary eating. I'm talking about just dealing with the hunger day to day. Even if you do it moderately, that 200, 300, 400 calorie deficit, doing that every single day. But also, again, I forgot to mention this in my deal breakers earlier on. This is one of the keys as well. Not doing like crazy amounts of exercise that spike the appetite. Saying to my clients in week 1, we're just going to do walking only for the first month of the program. And they're delighted, but they're also suspicious. I'm going to really get results doing this? Actually, yeah, this is such a great way to promote a very stable appetite instead of the big, crazy yo-yo and that kind of recovery need after really hard sessions. the way the glycogen gets depleted, and you can easily compensate / overcompensate for that with a couple of bites of food. And actually, ironically, I've always found a calorie deficit easier to hit on less exercise. Again, rules of thumb, there are exceptions to this. I've always personally found that. That's been my MO. That's why I love this slow go movement mentality, like walking, yoga, Pilates. I love stuff like this. And you can add a little more intensity if you want, a couple of times a week. Bit of strength training is really good for you as well, but you can build up to this in time. But to promote that really stable appetite, to make the calorie deficit as easy, not effortless, but as easy as it can be. That's why I'm so strict about these things. Because I know that dieting, I've been in this industry a long time. I know it's not effortless. I've lived this myself. I've not only helped people with this, I live this day to day. I love this. The biggest passion in my life. And I'm the first to say, this isn't effortless. I'm really careful about this in my branding and whatnot. I say branding, literally just every message I put out. This methodology, the slim and sustain, the plant-based approach with the modifications that I've talked about here on this channel for 8-9 years now. This is, without question, the easiest and most sustainable way that I've personally found to do things. But I'd never use the word effortless. If I have, it's a mistake. If I have, it's scarce. Effortless is way too generous. This process is hard, guys. I still make mistakes all the time. I still go over my calories all the time. Why? Not because I'm a deeply flawed individual, not because I'm a fool, not because I have no discipline, but because dealing with hunger is really bloody hard. It's like trying to stay awake when your body wants to sleep, when you're really tired. It's the equivalent of that. You are intentionally withholding. You're putting your body in a state of lack nutritionally to some degree. I want to be careful with my words. Weight loss can be an inherently very healthy process. The idea that a calorie deficit is really bad for you, it's a new age, as I say, absurdity. But the process can come with these kinds of side effects, dealing with the hunger, the energy crashes, the mood swings. When you're withholding some calories back, it's tough. Might be really good for you in the long run, but it can be really tough day to day. But that's why I'm so strict on exactly how I like to do things. I'll remind you of this. I said this last week, and people were like, oh, that really resonates, Ryan. So I'll say it again. You're probably so much closer than you think, number one. About 70 to 80% of my coaching applications that come through my inbox, most of those folks, they're already eating healthy before they start with me. And they're scratching their head thinking, what's wrong? What's wrong? It's just small inconsistencies. There's little 200, 300 calories that they're overlooking here and there. All we do is dial those things in, tie up any loose ends in terms of inconsistency, and then bang, within 4 to 5 days, they're 2-3 pounds down in the first week. And they are literally like, oh, was this it the whole time? And I'm like, yeah, it's precision. The value of precision. Why? Because again, the difference between calorie maintenance and calorie deficit, it's not a great deal. It's easily filled. You fill that gap very easily with a little bit of processed or junk food. It's hard to fill with strawberries, but you do it with a bit of almond croissant, glass of wine, your Starbucks latte every day. You'll get there. You'll suddenly be at calorie maintenance, even if 70 to 80% of your diet, as I say, is really, really healthy. Like, why am I not losing weight? Just these little gaps, these little blind spots people have. So number one, you're probably so much closer than you think. And number two, I suppose I've said it. Yeah, weight loss is a game of fine margins. And that's really depressing to people because they're like, oh, so I'm going to gain weight so easily because the margin is so fine. No, yes, that's one threat to be aware of. That's a risk, obviously. But let's just reframe that, spin that on its head for a second. That's also why you're so much closer than you think. That's also why you're only a couple of small food choices away from massive success with this, from consistently losing 4 to 8 pounds. And that's very sustainable, by the way. Some people it's going to come off much faster, but hell, I'm being conservative with that estimate. 4 to 8 pounds every single month. This, just a couple of little changes in your diet can be all it takes, because weight loss is a game of fine margins. So you can look at it with the negative view of, oh no, it's so easy to gain weight, or you can look at it as a positive of, oh no, all I have to do is shift a couple of things in my diet and I'll be losing weight. And the difference really is not that much. Oh, I'm going to use that to my advantage. It's just a small little tweak I've got to make. And this is where so many people in my audience are at. They're doing like so much of this correctly. Like, I have people come to me all the time. They've been in the plant-based scene longer than I have. They've been to the McDougall stuff. They've been, God rest his soul. They've read all the books. They've been into whole foods plant-based nutrition longer than me. Why haven't they got results? I'm not trying to do compare and contrasting. This is my profession. You should expect I have results. But I'm just meaning, Mr. Arrogant, but I'm just meaning, like, knowledge is not it. Knowledge is not it. It's precisely every day hitting those calories. You don't even need to track your calories to do this, but you need to make sure you're taking the steps to be in the calorie deficit. And like I say, it's never going to be effortless. It's going to be hard. You'll make mistakes, but you get back on the wagon. The way that it really helps me, the way that I do this, to make it as easy, not effortless, as it possibly can be. High fiber, lots of volume, 60-20-20 macros, balanced macronutrients. If I want a little treat every now and again, I don't follow perfectionistic food rules. So when I have that treat, I go crazy, I spiral, because psychologically I've been repressing/suppressing that craving. No, I allow myself to have that thing. I'm still like 95% whole foods, you guys know, but I'll allow myself to have that bit of chocolate. But then I'm calculating the calories. I'm building it into my diet, not letting it stack. And then I say to myself, back on track from the next meal. That's the commitment. Otherwise, I don't get to do the thing in the first place. If it's a pretext to spiraling and having 3 cheat days in a row, I don't mess with it. I'm like, oh no, it's a bit risky right now. I'm staying tunnel vision with this stuff. So yeah, steps, daily steps, a little bit of walking. I do my strength training. 3 times a week though. If I do strength training every day, if I go to the gym every day like I used to back in the gym bro years, 8, 9, 10 years ago, my appetite is through the roof. It's cranky. After workouts, I'm walking home and I'm like thinking about all the high calorie treats I can get on the way home. We're not messing with that. We keep actually the appetite down by doing less exercise. So counterintuitive. But this is the approach that's changed my life and allowed me to not only lose the weight, hopefully you can see the track record in these videos, but actually keep it off. So those are my big deal breakers. This is how we make dieting easier, but we are realistic in saying, no, this isn't a total walk in the park. This isn't totally effortless. If you want my help doing all of this, of course, to tell you exactly, yes, you like my approach, but it's a bit overwhelming to do all of this yourself on your own. You want me to tell you exactly what and how much to eat on a plant-based diet to get that scale moving, and then, of course, apply the consistent one-on-one support, the hands-on accountability like I do. Well, I work with all of my clients one-on-one. There's no outsourcing group coaching stuff, so you work with me directly. The accountability is massive to really help you stay dialed in, really consistent, until the new behavior, the new habits feel second nature and automated. That's the beautiful point. We're talking about tactics today, but ultimately for many people, the bottom line is consistency. But when you've been in this long enough, when your taste buds start to change, when you've had such huge results that your identity starts to shift, you have a new standard for yourself, you've gone through the routine of making healthy meals so many times, you've ironed out, you're not perfect, but you've ironed out so much of your binge eating, your bad habits around food, that's when genuinely it feels a lot more, not perfectly, but a lot more effortless, a lot more natural. And that's the beautiful place, but most people don't stick with this process long enough to get there. Again, if you want my help doing all of this, I'll put the link to learn more about my coaching below. See you in the next video. Hope this helps.